In today's interview, we're speaking with a master of the big picture. He's been involved in a number of large firsts, from the first supermarket banking to the first common access card for the US Department of Defense. And his mastery of the big picture, you'll see it in how he knew that he wanted to be in sales and how he picked his path. You're really going to enjoy this interview. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Seller's Journey, the podcast where we speak to great sales reps and leaders and share their real stories from start to sales success.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Fung, and today I have the great pleasure of chatting with the illustrious Ted Heiman. He's a senior sales executive, enterprise security specialist at Entrust Datacard. Ted, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Joseph?
Really, really good. And where in the world are you calling in from today?
I'm actually calling in from the San Francisco Bay Area. I live in a town called Livermore that's about 35 miles southeast of San Francisco.
Awesome. Now, I know I shared your title and Entrust's company name, but maybe you can help our audience. What's the elevator pitch? Where do you focus, and what does Entrust Datacard do?
Certainly. So Entrust Datacard is a company that's focused primarily in the security industry. Both physical and logical access are the primary focus. I've been with Entrust Datacard for about a year, and my position is to manage the 100 largest accounts west of Denver. So I will primarily work with major accounts in the 5 billion revenue and above component.
So with a couple of SMBs, Main Street offices, that kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, we're not talking about your small and medium businesses. I work with the household name companies that you hear and see every day, and the big brands in pretty much every vertical market.
This is going to be a lot of fun. You're in a remarkable role right now, but you've also worked at some of the coolest names in tech on some of the coolest projects. The one that starts out with me, would like to start kind of with education and kicking off, because we speak to so many people who stumble into sales through a surprise or a unique opportunity, and that's not your story. So maybe you can help us. What did you study, and why did you pick the degree you did?
So I chose to study electronics and electronics engineering. Mm-hmm. The reason that I chose electronics and electronics engineering is actually a fairly interesting story, in that I had decided that I needed to go to college, but I had no idea what I wanted to study. I just didn't have a good idea. But I knew I wanted to sell long term, and coming from a family of salespeople, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I really took some time to think about, okay, if you're going to spend your career in sales, what do you want to sell? And at that time, it was when the very first personal computers were hitting the market, and you could see technology just evolving everywhere. And it became clear to me that if I had a strong technical background, that it would really enhance my ability to sell and put me in a position of having knowledge that many of my competitors, for instance, might not have. And what I found throughout my career is that having a technical background and being able to absorb and understand these very technical products that I sell allows me to build credibility with C-level executives very quickly, because they recognize that I'm not an empty suit. Unfortunately, sales guys have gotten a bad reputation throughout the years. You think about the guys selling cars, and the car salesmen and what, and salespeople don't have great reputations. And so if you can walk in and immediately gain credibility and add value to the discussion, that means a lot. And so the engineering background and the engineering degrees are what allow me to do that today.
So as an engineering alumni myself, I totally agree. I might be biased, but I think you are absolutely correct. This is definitely the right way to go.
I think it was a wise decision. It's definitely paid off.
So paying off. Okay, you do this degree, you get a job in sales, and it's really early on in your career that you get a chance to kind of exercise that big picture and solution oriented thinking again. And you shared a bit around the story of one of your firsts, and that sale that led to, I mean, the founding of supermarket banking. I mean, this is pretty cool. How did this happen?
Yeah, this is a very interesting story, and it was a scenario where I was working as a computer reseller, which is essentially kind of a middleman between the distributors and the end user customers. And
Mhm.
we facilitated a lot of the integration work for our customers, and two of my customers were Wells Fargo Bank and Safeway Corporation. And as I work with these customers, I'm always trying to understand how I can add value to their organization and how I can earn their business, because
Mhm.
nobody wants to be sold to. And I had two customers, and they were both saying the same thing, but in a different way. And so Wells Fargo was talking about the challenges that they had around being a strictly brick and mortar type business, and the fact that customers actually had to make an extra trip to go to the bank before they went shopping, or to go deposit money into their account before they paid their rent. And they
Oh,
were at trying to figure out how to expand their footprint. At the same time, Safeway Corporation was heavily focused on grocery sales, but they had these magnificent retail facilities, and they were trying to figure out, how do we add additional products to generate additional revenue and to provide additional value to our customers. And as I thought about these two customers, one evening it occurred to me that they were actually saying the same thing, and it occurred to me that it would make sense to put the two executives that I was working with the two companies together, to have a discussion about how they might work together to achieve a common goal. And out of that discussion came the concept of supermarket banking, which was a benefit to both Safeway and to Wells Fargo. To Wells Fargo, it allowed them to have a bank branch located in a place where customers go every day, and give them easy access to their funds. And for Safeway, it provided extra value to their customers by saving them the extra trip going to the bank to get the money that they needed to pay for the groceries. And so these two companies agreed to do a pilot, and installed the very first full service bank branch in a Safeway supermarket in Walnut Creek, California. And it was a huge success for both organizations. And out of that grew what we now call today supermarket banking.
that's remarkable. So I'm so curious. I mean, fairly fresh out of school, a sales professional, kind of carrying the bag, carrying a quota. What do you think you did differently that helped you spot that opportunity and have the influence to make that conversation happen?
Well, I think it's about how you approach your accounts, and the way that you think about the value that you bring to them.
Hmm.
So many salespeople get trapped in a very tactical mode, where they're simply responding to the customer's needs and requests. And I tend to take a little bit more of a strategic approach, where I really want to step back and understand my customer's business. what value are they trying to bring to the market, and then what products can I offer them that will help them to provide that value or to solve a problem for them that allows them to spend more time focused on their business. And so, I think I spend a little bit more time from a strategic perspective, really trying to understand these two concepts about one, what is my customer's business, and two, how do I bring value to that specific customer? And when you start thinking in the terms that they're thinking in and understanding their business the way they think about their business, all of a sudden, all these new opportunities arise, and you start to see these paths where you can actually come in and bring value to an organization. And I think that, if you can spend time with your customers to truly understand their business, one, they'll appreciate the fact that you're very interested in
Mhm.
in their business from their perspective, and it will put you in a much better position to then provide products and solutions to help them achieve their goals.
I love how strategically you articulated the approach. Makes it very, very accessible, and it brings to mind you shared another story earlier. And when I look at your journey and your path, there's this very clear trend and very clear line of tech company, tech company, tech company. A lot of focus in security, um, and I'm curious about the strategy, the thinking, because there's one episode right in the middle where it looks like, again, from an outside observer, it looks like you go security, security, shrink wrap, security. Uh, so would love to unbox that because it looks like a left turn at surface, but it would love to hear the thinking and what you were doing there.
Absolutely. So at the time, I was between jobs, so I didn't have a role with a security company, and I was kind
Okay.
of looking for a new opportunity. And a company that my sister Alice Heiman was working with, a company called Fast Wrap, was trying to take a technology that had been used historically for shrink wrapping boats to winterize them and keep them clean throughout the months that they weren't being used, and apply that to the construction industry, and to see if there was an opportunity to provide a shrink wrap solution where we actually would shrink wrap entire buildings while they were under construction.
A whole building, not like parts, but the whole building.
The entire building, yes. We're
Wow.
talking about 30 foot tall hospitals. We did things like air traffic control towers at Oakland Airport. We're
Oh,
talking
wow.
large construction projects, yes.
Okay, so I love the fact that in all of our conversations so far, you've really honed in on the value to the company, to the customer. I confess, I'm intrigued. What's the value of shrink wrapping your building? This is an area I'm not familiar with. So, what's the customer thinking? Why would they buy this?
So what happens is in construction, you tend to have pretty tight timelines, and you're committed to having projects completed by a certain date.
Hmm.
Sometimes there are actually huge fines and penalties for not completing a project on time. I mean, you can be charged up to $100,000 a day as part of
Whoa.
the contract if you don't complete the project on time. And one of the things that really impacts and prevents these construction companies from meeting their deadlines is weather, and primarily rain.
Uh,
It's very, very difficult to do construction in the rain. And so there was a challenge here, and there was an opportunity here. And what we recognized was that there was an application for the shrink wrap that went far beyond winterizing boats, and that if we took this technology and thought about it from a more strategic perspective and thought about other applications where it might bring value, we realized that we could help these companies stay on track with their construction schedule by allowing them to work through the weather. And so what we would do is when they build these large structures, there's generally scaffolding that is built around the structure that allows the workers to work in and around the building. And we would actually take that same shrink wrap, but it was a thicker material than what you would use on boats, and we would shrink wrap the entire exterior of the scaffolding of the building, which would then allow that contractor to work through storms, through rain, wind,
Wow.
in their way, and that would help them stay on time and on schedule with their project. And so if you think about having to pay penalties for not achieving the project on time and then being relatively large penalties, the ROI was pretty clear. If your penalty was $100,000 a day and we could come in and wrap your whole building for $50,000, then that was an easy return on investment and a simple decision for companies to make. And for companies here in the Bay Area, we have a rainy season, and there is several months during the year where we're going to get a significant amount of rain, and it prevents the construction companies from working during those periods. And what this technology, which wasn't a new technology, but was a new application of an existing technology, was intriguing to me, and we wanted to proof it out. And so I took on a year-long project with Fast Wrap to determine whether we could actually proof out the technology and whether there was actually a business model here. And we were extremely successful. It turned out to be a great business, and it is now being expanded across the country.
Thank you for sharing and clarifying, because I would never have been able to draw that line from shrink wrap to selling on time and on schedule and on budget projects. This is great. Thank you.
Certainly, it was. I mean, for me, it was new as well. I mean, this was one of those situations where it had never been done before. So you're kind of making it up as you go along, and once again, it just comes down to understanding your customer's business. How do these construction companies think? What are the things that drive them? And obviously, scheduling is critical because they have so many different subcontractors that have to provide services for them that everything has to stay on schedule. So once you understood that, it was very easy then to have a conversation with how this is a way and a technology that can help you stay on schedule. And the return on investment is clear.
So you've got this great strategic approach to working with your customers, choosing your path. I'd like to ask you, if you think back on your journey in sales, you've clearly made a lot of right choices, and things have followed some of your plans. But what has surprised you most? What stood out as something you didn't expect in your time in sales?
Well, the security industry is a pretty interesting industry because it's made up of a bunch of primarily very small companies, often startup companies, that are focused on solving one specific problem for the enterprise from a security perspective. And that's how the industry has kind of evolved, and leveraging funding from people that want to speculate on whether or not these organizations can actually build a product that will bring value to an organization from a security perspective. And not all the decisions that I made along my career were worked out for the best. I mean, I've made decisions that in my career where an opportunity looked like a really, really great opportunity, and based on everything that they were telling you, this was like an opportunity for you to go in and be extremely successful and make a bunch of money. And then once you get on the inside, you realize that what you were sold was not exactly what was going on. So I have made very strategic decisions as far as my career, but I will tell you that not all of them were the right decision. And
Mm.
oftentimes I would have to reevaluate and think about, am I in the right place where I can be providing the most value to my clients? And that's in the security industry. That's something that it's really important that they see you as bringing value to them, and that they understand that you understand the security requirements that an enterprise has to protect all of their IP.
I love the way you phrase that. I don't want to let that go. Asking, am I in the right place to provide the most value to my clients? I mean, when you think about opportunities, I think that's a much more powerful lens than just saying, is this the right opportunity that I want? Or is this the best for my career? Keeping the clients first is a really good and productive lens to think about that through. Thank you for suggesting that.
No, I think because of the industry that I'm in, I end up working with the same customers over and over again,
Mm.
different companies. So, I mean, I've worked with organizations like Chevron for over 20 years. But during that time, I worked for, 4 or 5 different companies providing services to Chevron. So, in my industry, because it is kind of a small world, making sure that you never burn bridges and always have the opportunity to have an open door with a customer is really, really important. And so what I found is that if you work in an industry like I do, and many times, people find that they work in an industry and have competitors that work in that same industry. And if you leave your company and go join, for instance, a competitor's company, you're going to be doing business with the same customers that you were doing business with at the last company. And
Wow.
so all I can tell you is never burn any bridges, so that there's always an open door for you when you step into your new role, and they understand that you're the kind of individual that brings value to them, and they're willing to take the time to understand what it is that you have that might help them at this particular moment.
This is great advice, and I'm so glad that we got to share some of your story. Uh, I'm knowing that we promised not to keep you too long. Do you have a minute for some rapid fire questions before you have to go?
Certainly.
Okay, let me crack these open and let's see. I'm super intrigued. You have worked at a ton of great tech companies. As you've been selling, what's been your favorite sales tool?
So I'm going to get grief for this from a lot of salespeople, but I'm actually going to say Salesforce is
Ooh,
the best tool out there for managing your business from a sales perspective. But I must express one huge caveat.
okay,
It has to be implemented properly.
nice,
It's not
nice.
easy to do. Salesforce is a very complex tool, and it has tons of features and capabilities. And I've worked for companies that were using it, that had it set up so it was working and was an efficient and effective tool for you to manage your business. And I've worked for companies that had it where it wasn't configured properly and wasn't really designed well so you could use it to run your business. So I would say Salesforce is a very powerful tool if you understand how to use it, and if the company that you're working for has invested the time and energy to make sure that it's set up to be able to do the things that you need to be able to do to manage your territory.
That is a great and I think
Like,
very
from
reasonable.
a big picture perspective. And then, I have to make a shout out to Miller Heiman. Um, you know, there's something that's called a blue sheet in Miller Heiman terms, and that is a planning tool, a sales planning tool that you can use to thoughtfully think out your strategy around any specific customer or opportunity. And the reason that I like the blue sheet goes back to the concept of strategic thinking, in that a lot of us sales guys sell from the gut. I believe salespeople are born and not made. And there's this gut instinct that allows you to, make the right decision at the right time for the people that are successful salespeople. But, working from your gut is fine, and it certainly has helped me through my career. But being able to take and elevate that up to an analytical level where you can actually put down on paper and analyze all the components of the sale, all the different buying influences in the sale, and what their motivations are, what the business is trying to accomplish, and how you bring value to them. When you start to lay this out on a blue sheet, this is where the strategic thinking starts to happen, and you start to see things and patterns, and you see ways that you're looking at this specific customer, and you say, you know what, with a previous customer, I saw the same pattern, and I was able to accomplish this by taking these specific actions. And so the blue sheet is just a great tool for you to plan out and manage your sales, especially your bigger sales, and to give you that opportunity to do a little bit more of that strategic thinking that ought to go into every sales opportunity.
Love it. Okay, this is good about kind of work, but outside of work, what's been your favorite movie?
So my favorite movie of all times is called Outlaw Josie Wales, and it's a Clint Eastwood movie that was
Nice.
made during the Civil War period, and it was actually Clint Eastwood not only directed it, but he starred in the movie as well. And the thing that draws me to it is, one, I love old westerns, and so everything that Clint Eastwood does from that perspective is awesome. But I think even more important than that, the cinematography that was done for this production was absolutely amazing. Most cowboy movies, that's not ever even taken into consideration. If you think about the old spaghetti westerns and stuff,
Yeah.
cinematography in Outlaw Josie Wales is absolutely amazing, and everybody should take an opportunity to watch the movie and get to see a little bit about the history of our country and the beautiful cinematography of our country.
This has been great. I think the tools you mentioned are fantastic. I've got another movie added to my list. Ted, thank you so much for taking the time today. This was incredible.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm always happy to do these types of interviews, and always looking to help other salespeople, find ways to be successful and bring value to their customers. And so I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me.
I'm looking forward to getting your story out there, and I'm really looking forward to our next conversation because I've got a lot more to learn, and I'm looking forward to making that happen.
I look forward to that as well.
Awesome. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you, Joseph. You do the same.
Take care. Ciao.